I actually have two. My first question was that you're telling us reasons for other people's success, but what about your own? You know, how did that come about? And then my second one was, I was just speculating, and you know, it seems to me that over and over again, it just kind of seems like this is a game of chance in some perspectives. I mean, some people are just lucky enough to be placed in a situation, you know, under fortunate circumstances, and so that plays out to their advantage.
Two good questions. I'll try and give brief answers. Does luck play a role? Oh, totally, huge role. In fact, a lot of my book is devoted to this. You know, Bill Gates, as he is the first to tell you, is the luckiest man in the world, right? He showed up in 1969 at the age of 13, and there was a computer sitting there in his school. I mean, if that isn't luck, I don't know what is. Now, he then made most of that, but you're right, it began with an act of luck that was denied to 99.99999% of humanity. What is our response to that as a society? Well, we'll never be able to even out all the luck, right? We can't create a society where everyone gets exactly the same breaks, but we can even out some of it. And one of the things that we do when we pay attention to things like you know, building up schools in poor areas, or leveling funding in different districts, or giving appropriate college aid or scholarships, all those kinds of things are ways to try and even out luck, right? So that, you know, in 1900, the only kids who got to go to college were kids lucky enough to be born into a wealthy family. And we've been trying to even out that luck over the course of the last 100 years. We still haven't done it completely, but we've made some real strides, and we ought to continue doing that. So to answer your question, we can't have a perfect world, a perfectly fair world, but we can have a fairer world. And we should never give up and try to make it fair. My own success. I've been insane. I mean, I've also been insanely lucky. I could go on and on and on. I also had an incredible apprenticeship at the Washington Post for 10 years. I got my 10,000 hours of training in at the Washington Post, where I learned my craft. I'll give you one, just since we're ending, I will give you one story about how lucky I am. As I've told you, I'm a Canadian, and I came to America after graduating from college to get a job, and the job got me a temporary work visa. But I got fired from the job. And so there I was in Bloomington, Indiana, and I really didn't want to go back to Canada. So I decided I would go to Washington, D.C. and seek my fortune. Now, I was, of course, at this point, illegal, right? So I was an illegal immigrant living in Washington, D.C., and I got myself a job illegally, and I had my little illegal apartment, and I did have to pay my taxes. And I went home to see my parents, and I got busted at the border. Totally got busted. And what they did back then was they tried to turn me around and put me on a plane back to Canada, but I said I had a doctor's appointment. And the guy was took pity on me, and so he said, show up at the INS headquarters like a week from now in Virginia, and we'll process your case, meaning we'll deport you. So I quit my job, got rid of my apartment, sold my belongings, packed my bags, went down to the INS. You sit there for like 7 hours, right? And then I went into the hearing room, and the hearing guy is like sitting behind a desk like this. There's all these papers in his hand. He looks at me, looks down at his papers. He starts shuffling through them. Finally, he looks at me and says, I have no idea who you are or why you're here, but I've lost your file. And that's why I'm here today.